The Santa Train, a railroad of hope, history, and holiday magic. Before the holiday season officially kicks off, before the stores hang their lights, and before people pull out their tangled boxes of decorations, there's a sound that announces Christmas in the mountains of Appalachia. More dramatically than any countdown calendar ever could. A whistle. Sharp, echoing, unmistakable. It slices through the cold November air and sends children running for coats and parents rushing to warm up their cars. The mountains wake up, the valleys stir, because they all know what that whistle means. The Santa train is coming. For more than 80 years, this legendary train, now operated along the former Clinchfield Railroad by CSX Transportation, sometimes in partnership with Norfolk Southern, has threaded its way along a 110-mile route. From Kingsport, Tennessee, to Elkhorn City, Kentucky, bringing gifts, candy, and holiday cheer to communities tucked deep within the Appalachian Hills. Its story is part wartime history, part local folklore, and part heartwarming chaos, an American Christmas tradition unlike any other. 1943, a train born out of hardship and hope. To understand the Santa train, you must picture the mountains of Appalachia in 1943. The United States was deep in World War II. Coal powered nearly everything: ships, factories, troop trains, and the miners of central Appalachia were working harder than ever. Yet despite their importance, many families were barely scraping by. Kingsport, Tennessee, relied heavily on these communities for business. Local merchants felt the strain of the wartime economy, and morale across the region sagged. Something needed to be done. Something bold enough to lift spirits when the world felt bleak. A simple idea emerged during the Kingsport Merchants Association meeting. If the people can't come to Christmas, let Christmas come to them, by train. The plan bordered on ridiculous. Load candy and small gifts onto a regular Clinchfield passenger train. Dress someone as Santa. Send the train rumbling through remote coal towns at dawn, throwing treats out to waiting families. And yet, in November 1943, it happened. Joe Higgins, a local man known for both his size and sense of humor, became the first Santa Claus of the route. Perched at the back of the train in the freezing wind, he tossed candy as the locomotive roared through the mountains. Families chased the gifts along the tracks, laughing, cheering, and gathering what they could. A tradition was born, one powerful enough to survive 8 decades. From chaos to coordination, the rolling Christmas parade. For the first 60 years, the Santa train barely slowed down. Volunteers hurled bags of candy and toys from the back cars, while the train thundered forward. It was joyful, chaotic, and sometimes downright dangerous. But the memories were unforgettable: stories of children sprinting through the snow, parents calling out warnings, and Santa laughing from the rear platform as he tried to keep his beard from blowing off. By the early 2000s, safety concerns finally changed the format. The Santa train began making scheduled stops, allowing families to gather at crossings and interact with Santa directly. The tradition expanded into a massive regional project, today distributing more than 15 tons of toys, warm clothing, food, and treats across approximately 14 scheduled stops along the 110-mile route. Yet no matter how organized it became, the magic remained. Grandparents who once chased the train now brought their grandchildren. Families came before sunrise, bundled in coats, waiting for the first distant whistle. Volunteers, exhausted but joyful, returned year after year. The happiness was a bag of treats gathered free from Santa's own treasure. One elderly Appalachian resident reflected, a memory preserved decades later. How the Santa train became a national story. For years, the Santa train was a regional secret. Locals knew it, outsiders did not. That changed in 1968 when a restored steam locomotive drew railfans from far beyond the mountains. Interest grew again in 1982 when journalist Charles Kuralt showcased the Santa train on his nationally broadcast program On the Road. Suddenly, the world saw what Appalachia had cherished quietly for 40 years. Even as railroads modernized, ownership changed, and mine closures shook the region. The Santa train kept running, through good times, hard times, and even modern challenges like the pandemic. Its return in 2022 marked a powerful moment for communities that feared the tradition might fade. But the Santa train did not fade. It endured. It still endures. What's new? Santa trains across America. While the Appalachian Santa train is the original and the heart of the tradition, its influence has expanded far beyond the mountains. Across the United States, railroads and museums now run their own holiday excursions. Some commercial, some charity-driven, all inspired in spirit by the idea of delivering Christmas joy by rail. From brightly lit North Pole trains in the West, to family-oriented holiday excursions in the Midwest, to volunteer-run gift trains in small towns, each carries a spark of the same message. The original Santa train began in 1943. Bring Christmas directly to the people. These modern trains are not mere imitations. They are echoes, descendants, and proof that the idea of holiday magic on rails resonates everywhere. A tradition that still matters. Why does the Santa train continue to capture hearts after 8 decades? Because it represents something simple and powerful. Joy delivered directly to the people who need it most. It honors the coal miners whose labor built cities and powered a nation. It unites towns that once depended on the tracks for everything: food, supplies, news, survival. It preserves the memory of childhoods when happiness was found in a paper sack of candy tossed from a passing caboose. And above all, it reminds us that Christmas magic does not require perfection. It requires heart. Today, as Santa trains roll not only through Appalachia, but across the entire country, they carry the same message first imagined in 1943. Sometimes, Christmas comes roaring down the tracks. Lights shining, horn echoing through the valleys, bringing hope with every mile.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Kick off. Definition: to begin or start something, especially an event or activity. Example: the holiday season always seems to kick off when the Santa train arrives. 2. Tangled. Definition: twisted together in a messy or confused way. Example: I had to fix the tangled Christmas lights before decorating the tree. 3. Threaded. Definition: moved smoothly through or between things, like passing through a narrow space. Example: the train threaded its way through the mountains at dawn. 4. Tucked. Definition: placed or hidden neatly in a small or safe space. Example: small houses were tucked into the valleys along the tracks. 5. Hardship. Definition: serious difficulty, suffering, or trouble, often caused by economic or social conditions. Example: many families faced real hardship during the early 1940s. 6. Scraping by. Definition: surviving with just enough money or resources, but no more. Example: coal mining families were scraping by, trying to make ends meet. 7. Morale. Definition: the general level of confidence, spirit, and enthusiasm of a group. Example: the Santa train was created to lift the low morale of mountain communities during the war. 8. Sagged. Definition: dropped down or declined under weight, pressure, or difficulty. Example: spirits sagged across the region as the war went on. 9. Bleak. Definition: without hope, comfort, or cheer, cold and depressing. Example: winters in the mountains felt especially bleak during wartime. 10. Rumbling through. Definition: moving through an area with a deep, steady, often loud sound. Example: the train came rumbling through the valley early in the morning. 11. Perched. Definition: positioned or resting on something high, narrow, or insecure. Example: Santa was perched on the back of the railcar, waving to the crowd. 12. Hurled. Definition: thrown with great force. Example: volunteers hurled candy from the moving train during the early years. 13. Downright. Definition: completely or absolutely, often emphasizing something extreme. Example: the old distribution method was downright chaotic. 14. Bundled in coats. Definition: wrapped up warmly in several layers of clothing. Example: families stood bundled in coats, waiting for the Santa train in the freezing dark. 15. Railfans. Definition: people who are enthusiastic about trains, railroads, and railway history. Example: railfans traveled from far away to photograph the Santa train. 16. Showcased. Definition: displayed or presented something in a way that highlights its best features. Example: a national TV program showcased the Santa train, bringing it wider attention. 17. Cherished. Definition: loved and valued deeply, held with affection and respect. Example: for many families, the Santa train became a cherished holiday tradition. 18. Preserved. Definition: kept something safe or unchanged over time, protected from fading or disappearing. Example: old stories from the early rides are preserved through memories and photos. 19. Excursion. Definition: a short trip taken for pleasure, learning, or special events. Example: many modern Santa trains are holiday excursions designed for families. 20. Resonate. Definition: to affect someone emotionally or to seem meaningful and familiar. Example: the idea of bringing joy by train continues to resonate across the country. 21. Caboose. Definition: the last car on a freight train, often used by crew members, traditionally where Santa stood in early runs. Example: Santa waved from the caboose as gifts were tossed to the children waiting outside. 22. The plan bordered on ridiculous. Definition: the idea was so unusual or extreme that it was almost ridiculous, but not completely. It suggests the plan sounded unrealistic, surprising, or hard to believe, yet still possible enough to try. Example: the plan bordered on ridiculous, but everyone agreed it was worth attempting anyway.
Comprehension questions. 1. What major event was happening when the Santa train first began in 1943? Answer: World War II was underway, creating economic hardship and low morale in Appalachian mining communities. 2. Who originally came up with the idea for the Santa train? Answer: the Kingsport Merchants Association, working with the Clinchfield Railroad, proposed bringing Christmas to remote communities by train. 3. What simple purpose inspired the very first Santa train run? Answer: to lift the spirits of Appalachian families and show appreciation for coal miners, whose labor powered the war effort. 4. Who was the first person to play Santa Claus on the train? Answer: Joe Higgins, chosen partly for his size and humor, became the first Santa of the route. 5. How long is the Santa train's route today, and what are its endpoints? Answer: about 110 miles, running between Kingsport, Tennessee, and Elkhorn City, Kentucky. 6. Which modern company operates the Santa train along the former Clinchfield Railroad line? Answer: CSX Transportation, occasionally partnering with Norfolk Southern. 7. In the early decades, how did volunteers distribute gifts to families along the route? Answer: they threw candy and toys from the moving train as it passed through towns. 8. What major change happened in the early 2000s to improve safety? Answer: the Santa train began making scheduled stops instead of throwing gifts from a moving rail car. 9. Approximately how much donated material does the modern Santa train distribute today? Answer: more than 15 tons of toys, clothing, food, and treats. 10. How many scheduled stops does the Santa train typically make along its route now? Answer: around 14 official stops. 11. What national media moment helped the Santa train gain attention outside the Appalachian region? Answer: a 1982 feature by journalist Charles Kuralt on his program On the Road. 12. Why did the Santa train's return in 2022 feel especially meaningful? Answer: it had been paused for 2 years during the COVID-19 pandemic, creating uncertainty about whether the tradition would continue. 13. What is the main difference between the Appalachian Santa train and other Santa trains across the country today? Answer: the original Santa train is focused on charitable giving, while many modern Santa trains are holiday-themed excursion rides inspired by the tradition. 14. What emotional message has helped the Santa train endure for more than 80 years? Answer: the idea that Christmas joy can be delivered directly to people who need it most, regardless of distance or circumstance. 15. What image does the article suggest as a final visual for YouTube audiences? Answer: a glowing locomotive cutting through the dark Appalachian hills, with Santa waving from the rear platform. 16. How do older residents describe their childhood memories of the Santa train? Answer: they recall chasing the train, collecting treats, and feeling a sense of joy and wonder, memories that stayed with them for life. 17. What key role did coal miners play in the origins of the Santa train? Answer: their labor powered the national war effort, and the train was partly created to thank them and uplift their families. 18. What symbolic meaning does the train carry beyond gift-giving? Answer: it represents hope, community spirit, and the belief that kindness can travel even the toughest terrain. 19. Why do families continue to gather before sunrise to see the Santa train? Answer: it has become a multi-generation tradition that marks the true beginning of the Christmas season for many Appalachian communities. 20. What is the closing message of the article about Christmas itself? Answer: that sometimes Christmas doesn't wait for you. Sometimes it comes roaring down the tracks, lights shining and horn echoing, bringing hope with every mile.